this is the ER diagram.
Okay.
So can you check if I've covered everything from the question?
Okay, let me read it. University is planning to maintain the following details: a unique student identification number, which you have, name of the student is there, program code which the student has enrolled. Let me see. Program code. Yeah, that's there. Program names for all the programs. Program name is there. Program duration, fee, duration, yep. Uh, Contact number, fee paid with the student along with the date of the payment. Contact number, payment date, fee paid. Yep, you've covered everything. Yes.
Okay. Student ID is primary key,
Hmm.
so that it will go in the constraint column, and what should go in data type? Varchar.
Okay.
Then first name, last name.
Do you have any online websites?
No, forward.
Like, do you write blogs, articles?
No.
Okay. Maybe what I can do is I have a website where I can create a user for you. It's a WordPress website, and solutions like this, what you have solved, probably can help others. So maybe you can publish this as an article, like put the question, copy paste the question, and then paste these answers on that and just publish it. So later on, if any other students want to have a look at it, you can just refer that link. Does that work for you?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I'll share the user name and password so you can anytime log in and you can publish blogs or articles.
Okay, thanks.
And welcome. And those will be live, so anybody can access those links. Will the contact number be varchar or will be an integer?
Mm, it will be int.
Okay, because you'll never have a character, I think, in that. It'll just be.
Yeah.
Should there be a limit on that?
I don't know. I'm not sure what exactly should go in the data type column.
Okay.
And fee paid also will be int. Payment date, we can put date type, right?
Yeah.
So next we have to make the program table.
Okay.
Program code.
Date can be date time. It's called date time.
Okay. Program name and duration and total fee.
Okay. Probably you can create another column that says null yes or no. Uh, because I think primary key should never be null, correct?
Yeah, that's what the primary key constraint specifies.
I'm looking at the structure of the table in the PHP MyAdmin, and there is a column for null or not null. But it's fine. Let's move on.
Okay. And then since student to program is a many to many relationship, we'll need a third table.
Mm-hmm. That's a relationship table, right?
Uh, yeah,
Okay.
so we can call this student program.
Okay.
So this will have student ID, and this is a foreign key, and program code.
Okay. I think we can change the phone number back to varchar because I checked the online and they're saying that for phone numbers it's okay to use varchar because sometimes I
Okay.
think it'll probably have some hyphen and all that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe give 15 in case if they are giving hyphen and stuff. Just give a little bit more.
So for the last table, the primary key is student ID plus program code. So I don't know if it should be specified separately.
Mm, I didn't understand actually. Can you just
The
scroll up?
primary key of this table,
Hmm.
student program, it's student ID plus program code. It's a composite key.
Okay. Let me see the solution. Let me see how they've done it. Actually, I don't have the solution to be honest. Even I'm not sure about that. How many tables have you created in total? Just show me like a glance of everything. So you've created
Three
student
tables,
table,
student table, program,
program key, program. Why then doesn't program has the foreign key itself? Why do we have to create another table?
because it's many to many. And we can't put a multi-valued
Hmm.
attribute.
Right. Uh, okay.
This would be underlined.
Okay. Fine.
So that's it, right? For the
Yeah, we
question.
yeah we probably have to verify looking at some other examples whether this is correct. I
Yeah.
mean, everything is fine, but I'm only thinking about the last table.
Mm.
Okay, what? So which question does it solve? Which part of the question does it solve?
Uh, the last one, convert the ER diagram to relations.
Okay, fine. So I think similarly we can do the one in the question paper. Sorry, no, on the assignment also, because that's converting ER diagram into the table. So yeah, I think we can do it. So we don't have to do the assignment question separately. Was there any other question from the assignment you're supposed to cover?
Uh, no. Should we go over some of the normalization problems?
Yeah, because normalization is a nightmare. There are a lot of like 1F3, 2F, 3F, 4F, 5F, and there's one more that starts with B. I don't know what that is.
BCNF.
Yeah, maybe we can do the questions from the. You already done some assignment, right?
Yeah, there was only one question in the assignment.
Have we done that?
Yeah, we did that yesterday.
Okay, so maybe we can do it from the textbook now.
The textbook, there were no problems like that. Um,
Really?
there is one similar one. Let me find it.
I think textbook has quite a few questions. 1 second.
This is what's there in the textbook.
Let me see. Given the return relation of book issue return, a student get many books. Nominality is relation. The function dependence in relation. What are the candidate keys? Yeah, of course. This is a good example because it's also asking you to normalize it. And if we look at the solution of this at the bottom, we can see that they are converting into 1F, 2F, and 3F, something like that. We can do this, all
Yeah.
these three questions.
Okay. Right. So first, they're asking for the anomalies in the relation. With
Mhm.
that, for relational instance, we can just look at the solution of the relational instance that they have there. Oops.
You probably want to open this in two different pages. Otherwise, you have to keep going on to the questions,
Yeah.
or maybe copy the question on a notepad or something and do a toggle all time.
Okay, can you see my screen? The textbook?
I can see the whole screen.
Okay. So this is a relational instance,
No, right now
and
you are on the StreamYard screen. I can see
yeah, you.
StreamYard screen.
Oh, it's not showing this window.
I can see all the tabs in the StreamYard.
Can just switch back and forth between the two. So in the relational instance, we have data redundancy because um, we have student ID, and one student can be issued multiple books. So there will be multiple rows with the same student data.
What's the question actually?
Explain anomalies in the relation with the help of a relational instance.
Which means what are the problems? What are the problems
Yes.
in this table? Okay.
So we have data redundancy because student data is getting repeated.
Right. A101 is getting repeated twice, then R102. So basically the tuple first and third and tuples second and fourth are getting repeated.
Yeah.
Plus, I think if we delete the record of one of the student, then the other information like book title issued on, that will also go away and there's no way to get it back.
Yeah, that's called the delete anomaly.
Yeah. Update anomaly is in case if you want to update the record for Abhishek, then I'll have to update it all the places. Like for example, let's say DBMS. So DBMS needs to be a issued date or whatever that is. We need to update it multiple places. What else is there?
Yes, and insertion anomaly. If you want to
Okay.
insert book data, but it hasn't been issued to any student, then you can't insert it.
Right. Student has not enrolled into that book. So if student has
Yeah,
not enrolled, that will go as null, and then there'll be too many nulls in the table.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
so
we can
that's
explain
the
that.
answer to that question. Next, we have to identify the functional dependencies in the relation.
Okay.
So, in the relation, we have a student ID, student name, book ID, book title, issued on, returned on.
Can you read it in the way it's supposed to be read? Like student
Oh,
ID
I was just reading the
determines.
attributes that were there, all of them.
Okay.
Student ID determines student name,
Yeah.
book ID determines book title, book
Hmm.
ID and student ID issued on um, determine returned on.
Yeah. So three different functional dependencies.
Yes. So this last one I found a bit confusing. I thought it should be book ID and student ID alone.
Oh, I think issued on also. How can you return something without issuing it? So I think that's why issued on is important. So it is dependent. You can't return something unless it's issued.
Yeah, and also a student could be issued the same book twice.
Yeah. So these are what was the question?
Identify the functional dependencies.
And what else? What's the next question?
What are the candidate keys and which of these can be a primary key?
Student ID is definitely the primary key. Candidate keys can be student ID, uh, book ID, combination of student ID and book ID.
No, student ID can't be the primary key
Why
because
not?
it's not unique. It appears
Oh yeah, right.
multiple times.
So we have to
So
combine two keys, book ID and
yeah,
student ID, to be able to generate that. What is the answer? Can you give it? Just
it's
one
book
candidate key
ID,
because hmm,
book ID, student ID, and issued on.
just one candidate key which is also chosen as primary key. So they are saying they have to combine all three of them.
Yes, because all three of these contain an attribute that determine the rest of the attributes.
Okay,
If we just take one or two of them, then there are other attributes that are not dependent on the key.
right.
The next question is normalize the relation.
Yeah, let's do that.
So it's in first normal form.
And it is in the first normal form because none of the multi-value attributes.
Yes. Um, Here they're saying the composite key is student ID plus book ID. But earlier they said it was student ID
No, that was
plus.
candidate key.
That's the same thing.
No, I think candidate key and there's slight difference in candidate key and composite key. Difference
The candidate
and
key is
wait,
a composite key.
key and composite key. Just one second. A candidate key is a super key with no redundant attribute, while a composite key is a key that consists of two or more attributes that uniquely identify any row in the table. So there is a difference. They are not the same.
Yes, but you have to consider the candidate key here, right? This won't even be a key because, like, if a student takes the same book twice on different
Yeah,
dates, then these two values will be the same.
I don't know why they're considering composite key instead of.
Yeah, I think it should be student ID plus book ID plus
Correct,
issued on.
right?
And then I'll decompose it into um, three relations: member, student ID, student name. The reason is the first functional dependency. The student ID determines student name.
Hmm.
And then from the second dependency, we get book ID, book name. And from the third one, student ID, book ID issued on, returned on.
Okay.
These relations are already in third normal form and
What
PCNF.
what was the third normal form? It has to be
So
in two normal form
and no non-prime attribute should transitively depend on the key.
means completely dependent. What was the explanation of transitive?
Transitive means it's not directly dependent, like one attribute is dependent on the key, and there's another attribute that's dependent on the non-key attribute, and by the property of transitivity, it's dependent on the key.
Okay.
Like we had A determines B and B determines C, so by transitivity, A determines C. So we shouldn't
Okay.
have that.
It should be non-transitive, right?
Yeah,
Okay. That is a better example to grasp actually. The last one you gave. Easier to
yeah,
understand. Okay. All the relations are in three. So why is it saying all the relations are in three? Are they referring to the above one? Just
yeah,
right above?
yeah. After converting it to an if they're already in 3NF.
Okay. So what is a BCNF actually?
That one is um, all the determinants of the left side of the functional dependency are the candidate key.
Sorry.
This one was a little confusing to understand.
Okay. I hope they don't ask BCNF in the
Yeah,
examination.
yeah,
I have kind of skipped the whole normalization only. I mean, of course, I understand little bit, but the details of it, I was feeling like I was spending too much time into this, and then because of that, others will be left off just to learn the 4 marks question. I'm pretty sure 4 marks will come, not more than that. Um, yeah, theory part I'll learn, but practical part is I find it confusing. It's hard to like remember this permutation combinations unless you do a lot of examples.
yeah.
Boy's chord normal form relation fulfills the criteria of the 3NF and all the determinants the left side of the function are the candidate key. Okay. The left side has to be candidate keys.
So this example makes it a little bit more clear.
Which one?
Um, in this relation, they have overlapping candidate keys. There are two candidate keys: student enrollment number and course number, and student enrollment number and course name. So it's not in BCNF because the non-overlapping attributes, course number and course name, are dependent on each other.
Okay.
So we need to remove that to make it in BCNF.
Okay. Fine. Have you done all the questions or is there something remaining?
Uh, we have done all the questions from the assignment and question paper,
Fine.
and from the textbook too.
Okay. So we'll start with the uh, your Java and we'll finish that off today. And then probably we can divide our day, like divide that 1 hour into two parts. One is half an hour revision of Java, and another half an hour for doing the database management system from tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start. I'll do the revision at the end. I'll just start and finish all the rest of the chapters. So I'll share my screen. Okay, so we learned about the Java FX was an API that allows us to build or develop the user interfaces, and it had different components like J button, J checkbox for us to design or develop the UI components. We discussed about the stage. We have a stage first, and then we have the I think screen, and then we have different nodes inside of that. So I'll talk about the adding text in Java FX. Just like various shapes, you can also create text node in Java FX. Text node is represented by a class named text, which belongs to the package Java FX scene.text. This class contains several properties to create text in Java FX and modify its appearance. This class also inherits the shape, which belongs to the package Java fx.scene.shape. Therefore, in addition to properties of text like font, alignment, line spacing, etc., it also inherits the basic shape node properties such as stroke fill, stroke width, and stroke type. You can create a text by instantiating a text class as follows: text equals text, new text. Okay, so just to recap, you can create text nodes in Java FX. That's available inside of Java FX.scene package, and it's represented by the class text. You have to instantiate that class in order to create a text object. You can modify its appearance using javafx.scene.shape. Uh, you have font, alignment, line spacing, etc. And you also have basic shape properties like stroke fill, stroke width, etc. Now, how do you add the HTML content in JavaFX? In a typical web page, the content and the presentations are defined using HTML and CSS respectively. That's in like a standard web page. But in Java, this is how we do it. So this is an example. So you have JavaFX. Let me see if I can increase the width of this. Oops. Yeah, much better. Okay, let's take a look at the program, how an HTML is added. So here you have your style sheet where you can create a folder called CSS and create style.css. Normally, when if you write an HTML page, you will um, add a selector, like for example, dot button. You're targeting that selector that these styles should be applied on that. In a normal HTML, when you're writing CSS for that, then you don't have to prefix fx. But here, since we're doing Java fx, you have to prefix all the styles with fx, like background color, text fill, font size, font alignment. So these are your styles, and these styles will be applied to each of those elements with that class. Okay, so we import the Java FX application, scene, button, edge box, text. So edge box is the layout. If you remember, we were doing layouts. So that's your layout, text, stage, and then we create a class, our custom class name. We extend application. We basically call the application.launch method of the application class, and then we override the start method of the application class. So application class already has a start method, but we are overriding it so that we can define our own stuff inside of that. This has access to stage. We first create a text node using instantiating the text class. We set the text value to be welcome to use of CSS and JavaFX. We call the style ID from the CSS files. We had this text one CSS selector, so we put the style for that. text1 dot get style class dot add dot text1. So whatever this style is going to get added to this text node. Then we create a button. So this was a text node. Now we are creating button node. We are saying it's going to be yes, and the content of that button inside that will be saying yes. Again, we apply the style. From here, we create another button called no, and we add the style. Another button called cancel, add the style. Then we create a layout using the instantiating the hbox from the layout package, and then we get its children. We add all the text yes button. So basically, this layout is like a container, and it's going to contain all of those nodes. So it's like a wrapper. So we are getting hold of this object, the layout edge box, and we are inserting or adding all of these nodes that we have created on top, which is text one, yes button, no button, cancel button. So it's going to contain like a container. It's going to contain all of those in that layout. Then we create the scene. Scene is going to contain the layout, which we are passing the layout object. Then okay, so then inside that, uh, inside the scene, this is the width and the height, 700 pixels wide and 70 pixels in the height. So that'll be the width and height, the rectangular scene. Inside the scene, you have layout. Inside the layout, you have all of these buttons. Again, we're going to add the style sheet. So of course we have the style, but this is contained within a file. So we have to pass that file address here. So this will include that style, whatever style you've written here into that scene. So scene.getStyleSheet.add and the path up until whatever your style sheet is. Then we're going to set the scene, because as we learned, the hierarchy is that you need to set the stage. Inside of the stage, you'll have the scene, uh, that you need to set the scene, and inside of the scene you'll have layout, and then you'll have different nodes available. So you set the scene, you set the title, HTML CSS example, and then finally we do dot show, which is going to show that entire layout to the user. Okay, now working with UI controls. First, we'll talk about skinning, which is creating application with CSS. So now we're going to be kind of repeating what we have learned here and just kind of going into the detail of that. This was like an overview of how it's created. I have not created like a view of that. I think I may have missed that. But this is the code that's used to create that scene and all that. Okay. So default style sheet, Java FX uses Caspian.css as default CSS file. It is found in Java FX runtime jar file, jfx fxrt.jar. This style sheet defines default style rules for the root node and UI control. So like HTML web page have their default style which the browser applies. Similarly in Java, if you don't apply any styles and just create nodes without adding the style, then Java is going to apply that default style to those elements from the Caspian.css, which is inbuilt. Adding styles sheets to scene, we can override the default style sheet. So yeah, of course, these are default, but we can override it and define our own style for every node of the application. The style sheet we create must have an extension .css, and it must be located in the directory where the main class of the application stars resides. So I've already explained that in the previous presentation slide. This is how you create the scene. Again, already explained. This is how you get the style sheet. Defining style sheet, again, as explained, you have to prefix those styles with fx for the Java fx. We can give style definition by using selector series of rules and set properties of the styles wrapped inside braces. Property name of the styles are preceded by fx. Example is this. This is your selector. These are your property key value pairs. This is how you create the button. This is how you set the style for that button node. Adding inline style, we can insert inline style by using set style method, and this is how you do it. Build UI with fxml. So far we learned with the Java fx. We can also build it with the fxml. Fxml is an XML based user interface markup language for defining user interface of a Java FX application. Using fxml, you can write UI controls code separately from the application logic. First line in the XML document is a standard first line of XML document, which is XML version 1.0 encoding UTF-8. The following two lines are an import statement. In fxml, you need to import the classes you want to use. Both Java FX classes and core Java classes used in fxml must be imported. So the VBox, which is the layout, and this is your for the control. After the import statements, you have the actual composition of the GUI, graphical user interface. A VBox component is declared, and inside its children property is declared a single label component. The result is that the label instance will be added to the children property of the VBox. So VBox is our layout. You have children inside of it, and then you have the label node. Okay, this is from the assignment. Event handling in JavaFX with example. In JavaFX application, an event is generated when the user interacts with the application nodes. Event handling is the mechanism that controls the events and decides what should happen if an event occurs. So event is very similar to how event works in other programming languages like JavaScript also, is that when the user interacts with your node, what happens? It should trigger something. So that's what the event handling requires you to do. Like when he clicks on something, for example, what should happen? So event is generated when the user interacts with it, with the application nodes. Event handling is a mechanism that controls the events and decides what should happen if an event occurs. JavaFX provides javafx.event.package event package for basic framework of FX events. Event class works as the base class for Java FX events. Each event is associated with the source. Source is an object that generates an event and sends it to one or more listener. Target, once the listener receives the event, they process the event and then returns. A target listener can be a window, scene, and a node. Type of the occurred event, example action event, mouse event, key event. When a source generates an event, JavaFX application goes through 4 stages of event handling. First is target selection. When the user interacts with a UI control, then an action occurs. At that moment, system decides which node gets the focus. Route construction. When an event is generated, the default initial route of the event is determined by construction of an event dispatch chain. It is a path from the stage to the source node, event capturing, then the root node of the application dispatches event. This event travels to all the nodes in dispatch chain from top to bottom. If any of these nodes has filter registered for a generated event, it will be executed. Event bubbling. In the event bubbling phase, the event is traveled from target node to the stage node from bottom to top. If any of the node in the event dispatch chain has a handler registered for the generated event, it will be executed. So event bubbling is asked in most of the interview questions, one of the most important topics in majority of the jobs that you apply. And event bubbling is nothing but is that if you basically there's in the HTML DOM, if there are multiple nodes which are kind of set into a hierarchy. For example, you have the layout. Inside of layout you have let's say a form. Inside a form you have the label, and inside of label you have an input. So if user clicks on input or a button, let's say, then event will be triggered. And if any other element in that hierarchy, let's say label also has an event, uh, form also has an event, so those events will also be fired automatically. So that's a bubbling. It's like a bubble, it goes up. Like if you see a uh, sizzling, maybe let's say fresh lime soda, how bubbles go up. Similarly, that's a similar concept that events also bubble from bottom to top. For example, if form has an event, a label doesn't have, nothing will happen on the label, but yeah, form will be triggered. Okay, so I think now I will be able to show the visual of it also, of this program. So we import first. Let me just make it bold. Mm, Event is generated when the user interacts. Mechanism that controls the events provides Java FX event package. So we import the java.awt.all. So it's going to import all the classes from it. Import java.awt.event.all. Class event handling extends frame, implements action listener, text field, text field. So basically we define an instance variable called text field with a type x text field. We have a function called event handling. Here we instantiate the text field class, hold it in the variable. So here we're just defining it. We are not assigning any value to this variable. This is where we assign the value. We basically create an object and hold it in this variable that we've created for the text field. We set the bounds 60, 50. I think this is basically your position. Button, we instantiate button and it'll say show, like it's showing over here. Set the bound, again set the position. So position with the text field is this. Position for the button is this 90-40. So I think this is the position for that. I guess X, Y, width, height, something like that. You can check. Then we apply an event listener on the button. So now the event will be fired when the button is clicked, and basically this is referring to this method. So this method will be called. When this method is called, uh, okay, we'll come to that. So then we add the button, we add the text field, we set the size, set the layout, set visible to true. Then we have action performed, add event E. So I think this will be triggered, this function will be triggered once the user clicks on that. Once this function is triggered, then we grab hold of the text field. Now because this is an instance variable and not a local variable which has access only inside of the body, because it's an instance variable, any of the method can access this variable. So now we can access variable here and use a method called set text and set the text to hello world. Initially this text field is going to be empty. When the user clicks on it, this function will be called. So the event will be triggered and function will be called, and hello world will be set inside of this. And inside of the main, we're just instantiating our own class. So we're creating this object. That's how it works. Types of events. The events can be broadly classified into following two categories. Foreground events, those events which require direct interaction with the user. They are generated as a consequences of a person interacting with graphical components in a graphical user interface. For example, clicking on a button, moving the mouse, entering character through keyboard, selecting an item from the list, scrolling the page, etc. Background event, those events that do not require an interaction of an end user are known as background events. The operating system interruptions, hardware or software failures, time expiry, operation completion are the example of background events. So events where user doesn't do anything, like doesn't really physically interact with those elements, uh, those are foreground events. And background events, like if system fails, something should get triggered, something should get called. If there's a time expiry, something should happen. So those events are like background events, which will be written once basis on a particular activity that happens. Now I talk about effects. So how we can apply the styles, we can also apply effects, animations, etc. So effects is an algorithm that applies on nodes to visually enrich their appearance. Java Effects API provides effect property of node class to specify the effect, which is used to set various effects such as blend, bloom, box blur, color adjust, color input, drop shadow, inner shadow, lightning, motion blur, shadow to a node. Each of these effects is noded by class. All of these classes are accessible by a package name as javaeffects.scene.effect. You can apply effects on any Java FX UI control using setEffect method. Example rectangle.setEffect, new drop shadow 12030 color.web, and that is the color code, the hex code. Okay, so let's take an example of source code. So we're just importing the application, scene, drop shadow, pane from the layout, color, rectangle, stage, and then we create a class, extend the application. So anytime when we are in JavaFX, we are trying to create an application, we basically extend the application. Did we do the same when we were writing the very first program? Let me see. There you go. Yeah, we did. We extended application. Okay, so we extend application. Uh, we launch. We call the launch method of the application by passing the arguments. Now, inside of the start method, uh, which is again the method of application, we are overriding it to start the application. It has access to stage object. We create a rectangle, pass all these values. We set the effect using setEffect method. We have to pass the another object of a class drop shadow and pass all these parameters, including its color. So drop shadow, I think these are borders of right, bottom, left. So I think three different dimensions, border and a color. Then you have scene. It's passing the layout called pane with the effect object, width and height of the layout, set the scene, set the title, stage, center on the screen, so it should be on the center, and then dot show to show everything that we've created. So we talked about the effects. Let's talk about animations. Animation is a set of transformation applied to an object over the specified duration sequentially so that the object can be shown in as it is in motion. So element is kind of repeated several times to give you a feel that it's getting animated. In JavaFX, the package JavaFX animation contains all the classes to apply the animation onto the nodes. All the classes of this package extend the class JavaFX animation.animation. JavaFX provides the classes for the transitions like rotate transition, scale transition, translate transition, fade transition, fill transition, stroke transition. How to create an animation? First, create the target node and configure its properties. Instantiate a class called rectangle, hold it in a rect variable. It requires 4 properties. Must be, I think, width and height in its position, x and y. Fill the color, color.red. Instantiate respective transition classes. So now we are instantiating rotate transition class. Set the desired property like duration, cycle mount, etc. for transition. Set duration, set axis, rotate dot y axis. So in which axis it needs to rotate. Set cycle count, like um, I think it's the count how many times it rotates, and this is the duration of how long it rotates. Set target on which the transition will be applied and use the following method for this purpose. Set node rect and then play the transition rotate dot play. So it's going to start getting rotated. Media and Java effects. How do you play a media like a video or an audio? JavaFX provides media-rich API that can play audio and video on the user's demand. So where can you read all of this?
JavaFX provides the media-rich API that can play audio and video on the user's demand. JavaFX provides the package javafx.scene.media that contains all the necessary classes. JavaFX.scene.media contains the following classes: JavaFX.scene.media.media, JavaFX.scene.media.media player, and media status, media view. Java.lang.runnable functional interfaces are used as the callbacks which are invoked when an event is encountered.
Okay, so here we have a class called media. It takes the URL of that media from where it's supposed to play. Let's say it's on YouTube or maybe it's an audio file locally that you have. So you have to pass that URL, hold it into a variable, and then instantiate media player class, pass that media object into it, which already contains the URL. Then you have to use the runnable interface, um, play music, and I think you could call that function called media player dot play and media player dot set on ready, and then play music. Just want to start playing that music. Okay, go on.
JDBC, Java Database Connectivity.
So here we have an application, Java servlet, applet, etc. We have a Java API. We have Java JDBC, which is Java Database Connectivity Driver Manager. We have an SQL Server, Oracle Data Source, and JDBC drivers. That's an architecture of Java Database Connectivity. Okay, this is a question from assignment. Go on.
JDBC API is used to provide database connectivity between Java applications and various databases. It defines how to access relational database through standard interfaces and classes. JDBC API helps us to write Java applications that can access tabular data. JDBC API allows the Java application to access various types of databases like Oracle, MS Access, Sybase, MySQL, and SQL Server, etc. It offers a platform-independent interface between the Java application and the RDBMS and allows the application to execute SQL statements. Various tasks are associated with database usage, such as establishing a connection, query creations, query executions, and viewing and modifying the resulting records. JDBC provides two packages, java.sql and javax.sql.
Now let's just underline. So JDBC, I think we should write the full form also for this one. Java Database Connectivity. The API to provide API used to provide database connectivity between application and various databases. Defines how to access relational database management systems through standard interfaces and classes. Helps to write Java application that can access tabular data. Allows Java application to access various types of databases. Platform independent between Java application and RDBMS, execute SQL statement. Okay, cool. Moving on to the next one. Advantage is also part of the assignment questions. Go on.
Advantages of JDBC: provide existing enterprise data. Businesses can continue to store their installed databases and access information even if it is stored on different database management systems. Simplified enterprise development. The combination of the Java API and the JDBC API makes application development easy and cost effective. Zero configuration for network computers. No configuration is required on the client side, centralizes software maintenance. Driver is written in Java, so all the information needed to make a connection is completely defined by the JDBC URL or by a data source object. Data source object is registered with a Java naming and directory interface JNDI naming service. Full access to metadata. The underlying facilities and capabilities of a specific database connection need to be understood. The JDBC API provides metadata access that enables the development of sophisticated applications. Just give me a minute. No installation. Pure JDBC technology based driver does not require special installation. Database connection identified by URL. The JDBC API includes a way to identify and connect to a data source using a data source object. This makes code even more portable and easier to maintain.
Okay, it's pretty difficult to remember all of this. Provides existing enterprise data. Business can continue to use their installed database and access information if it is stored on different database management system. So businesses can use installed databases even if stored on different systems, right? This is the key words in this statement. If you just read these keywords, you can understand. Businesses can use databases even if stored on different systems. I'm good at this because I used to prepare for IELTS, where we had less time and we are supposed to um, solve those question and answers. Basically, read the entire paragraph and also find the answers from different places. So we used to highlight the keywords. So I can do this like really fast. Okay, next, simplified enterprise development. Combination of Java API and the JDBC API makes application development easy, uh, okay, and cost effective. So I think the key thing is that development easy and cost effective. And then this is combination Java API and JDBC API. Java JDBC API. Combination of these two, development easy and cost effective. Zero configuration of the network. No configuration is required on the client side. Client side centralizes software maintenance. Java is written in Java, so all the information needed to make connection is completely defined by JDBC URL. Data source object is registered via is too much information. That's required on client side. So this is the same as this statement. Driver is written in Java. All information needed to make the connection. The connection is defined by JDBC URL. Okay, full access to metadata, underlying facilities and capabilities of specific database connection need to be understood. Provides metadata access. So this API, it provides metadata access, enables development of sophisticated applications. No installation required. Does not require special. Same thing as the heading, so we can leave that. JDBC API includes way to identify and connect to data source using data source object. Code even more portable. Includes way to identify and connect to a data source. Code portable and easier to maintain. Hopefully we can remember the rest of the stuff. Okay, let's do this.
Steps to create a JDBC application. Following are the necessary steps to create a JDBC application. The first step is to import all the required packages which contain the JDBC classes.
Hmm.
The second step is to register the appropriate JDBC driver which can perform the task of opening the communications channel with the database. The third step is to use the driver manager class getConnection method which can open a connection.
So remember in Java we were using MySQL Connect to establish a database connection, and that was allowing us to execute the
In
query.
Python,
Yeah, what did I say?
Java.
Oh, sorry. In Python, yeah. So similarly, here we have the JDBC, Java Database Connectivity, and it's kind of allowing us to, manage the connection, execute query and stuff. So I think that's what we're talking about.
The fourth step is to use the object of statement interface to execute a query.
Okay.
The fifth step is to extract the data using the result set method. The sixth step is to close all the connections and thus clean up the environment. The thin driver is the fastest pure Java driver which communicates directly through socket connections. It doesn't require any middleware or native library. It thus connects with the database by converting the JDBC method calls directly into the vendor database protocol without requiring any intermediate library.
Okay. Next.
JDBC core components. JDBC consists of the following core components through which it can interact with the database. JDBC Driver Manager is the main class that defines an object which is used to connect the application to a JDBC driver. The Driver Manager manages various types of drivers running on an application. JDBC Driver opens the database connection for the execution of database commands and receiving results with the Java application. A JDBC driver establishes a connection with a database and subsequently sends an update and retrieves queries. Connection interface offers different methods for database communication, and all the database communication is possible only through the connection object. Statement interface. This object submits an SQL query to the database. It provides two sub-interfaces, prepared statement and callable statement. These interfaces execute queries and fetch the processed result of the executed SQL queries. Result set interface provides the outcome of a query. The result set object maintains a cursor that points at the current row in the result set data.
Okay. Have you started with the studying of algorithms?
Yes,
How much have you covered so far?
half of it.
Okay. Is it easy or difficult?
Um, it's easy. Only the first unit was a little bit hard.
Okay. Okay. And have you done completed the Java?
No, the Java FX and JDBC units I haven't done.
You have not done. Okay.
No, I haven't done those.
But have you done the rest of it?
Yeah,
Okay. Cool. Right. Let's move on.
a JDBC driver opens the database connection for the execution of database commands and receiving results with the Java application.
Okay.
Types of JDBC drivers. JDBC ODBC bridge driver uses ODBC driver to connect to the database. This is now discouraged because of thin driver. Native API driver,
Hmm.
partially written in Java, uses the client-side libraries of the database. Network protocol driver, fully written in Java, uses middleware application server that converts JDBC calls directly or indirectly into the vendor-specific database protocol. Thin driver, fully Java driver, converts JDBC calls directly into the vendor-specific database protocol. The two approaches for registering the driver are: the first approach uses the class.forName method for dynamically loading the driver's class into the memory, and JVM registers the driver automatically. The second approach uses the driver manager .register driver method, which statically loads the driver and is generally used in non-JDK compliant JVM.
Okay, I'll read this. Steps to create database connection. Steps to creating for connectivity between Java program and database. First, import the package, load the driver's for name using the for name method, register the driver using driver manager, establish a connection using connection class object, create a statement, execute the query, and close the connection. And this will be easy to explain in the examination if they asked us to write the steps. Okay, so import java.io.all, input.output, java.sql.all. We create a class called GFG, and then inside of the main, we use throws exception class in case if there's an exception, it throws that in the connection, etc. Uh, we basically create a variable called URL. We store that inside of this JDBC MySQL, the local host path, table name, etc. Create a username variable, create password variable, create query variable. We select all from students table, which is the query to run, and then using for name, like I explained here, load the driver. So class dot for name, uh, com.mysql.cj.jdbc.driver, which is a driver name. Then we establish the connection by calling a method on driver manager dot get connection. Pass the URL, username, and password. This will have a connection object. Then we just say connection established successfully, and the result will be stored in the rs variable. We use st.execute query. We pass the query that we had created on top, and then we go next. Then we get the string, retrieve the name from the database. We print the name. We close the connection. Close statement first, and then close the connection, and then print that collection closed. Let's just quickly look at this. What's that? Okay, it's the same thing. Instead of throws, you can also use try and catch method, and which is another example here. But here, because you're using throw exception, I think it should throw the exception automatically. Okay, I'll read this. JDBC driver management class, manager class, and its use. The JDBC driver manager is a concrete class that provides an interface between the user and the driver. JDBC driver can create database connections, but generally, driver manager is used to get the connection. JDBC Driver Manager provides elementary services to maintain JDBC drivers and defines an object that connects the application to the driver. Driver Manager manages various drivers running on an application. It tracks available drivers and appropriately chooses the one which connects the application with the database. Driver manager.get connection method is most commonly used method of this class to establish database connection. Class.forName method is used to load the driver. It's an example of that. Let's take it. Provides an interface between user and driver. Used to get the connection. Provides elementary services to maintain JDBC drivers. Maybe important. Defines an object that connects the application to the driver. Manages various drivers. tracks the available drivers to establish database connection. The register driver method of driver manager class registers the given driver in driver manager list. If the driver is null, it returns null pointer exception. Throws SQL exception, driver equals new com.mysql.jdbc.driver, register the driver, and then print driver registered successfully. Statement interface. Sumaya, can you read this?
JDBC statement interface. The statement interface provides methods to execute queries with the database. The statement interface is a factory of result set. That is, it provides factory method to get the object of result set. The important methods of statement interface are as follows. Public result set execute query is used to execute select query. It returns the object of result set. Public int execute update is used to execute specified query. It may be create, drop, insert, update, delete, etc. Public boolean execute is used to execute queries that may return multiple results. Public int execute batch is used to execute batch of commands. Why statement object needed for SQL query execution. The execution of the SQL queries requires some predefined library defined in the form of statement object, prepared statement object, and callable statement object.
Yeah.
The prepared statement interface is a sub-interface of statement. It is used to execute parameterized query. The performance of the application will be faster if you use prepared statement interface because query is compiled only once.
So difference between statement and prepared statement is that prepared statement helps you avoid the SQL injection, which means a hacker cannot hack your database and insert malformed data into your database. If you directly say insert into EMP values and you directly pass the values inside of it, the hacker can basically pass this statement into some input field and automatically run that. It may be able to even delete your entire database. But if you use this placeholders like question mark, question mark, question mark, what's going to happen is that this value will come dynamically through variable, like the first one, second one, third one will come through, each one will come through a different variable. So that means uh, your normal query, if you try to run it with hard coded, it's not going to work because it's expecting to be replaced by variables. So prepared statements are better and it helps in security. Go on.
The fundamental difference between the statement interface and the prepared statement interface is that the prepared statement interface uses pre-compiled statements for execution and thus offers better performance and safeguards from SQL injection attacks.
Right. So this will be pre-compiled. This statement will be pre-compiled, and all it's expecting is that these question marks should be replaced with those values, and that's why it's offering better performance, and because that's already compiled beforehand, and it's avoiding the SQL injection attacks. Important methods are set int, set string, set float, set double, execute update, and execute query. Go on.
Callable statement interface is used to call the stored procedures and functions. We can have business logic on the database by the use of stored procedures and functions that will make the performance better because these are pre-compiled. Suppose you need to get the age of the employee based on the date of birth. You may create a function that receives date as the input and returns age of the employee as the output. Callable statement JDBC call statement is equal to connection dot prepare call procedure name.
Three times question mark.
Those are parameters.
Yeah. Result set. Hey, what happened? I have to delete one. Oh, we saved one slide. Let's just highlight some important points. Uses pre-compiled statement for execution. This is an important one. Offers better performance and safeguards from SQL injection attack. Sub-interface of statement. Executes parameterized query. Query is compiled once. Callable is done. Let's do result interface. Okay.
Result set interface. The object of result set maintains a cursor pointing to a row of a table. Initially, cursor points to before the first row. But we can make this object move forward and backward direction by passing either type scroll insensitive or type scroll sensitive in create statement method, as well as you can make this object as updatable by statement is equal to con.create statement result set dot type scroll insensitive result set dot concur updatable.
So, if you remember from one of the slides, we have all of these kind of steps, these interfaces and classes. Where is that? Uh, yeah, here. Driver manager, connection interface, statement interface. So we are studying each one of these core components now. We studied driver manager, we studied driver, connection interface, statement and prepare statement. Now we studied the result set interface. Yeah, that's the one we studied. Moving on.
Transaction management in JDBC. Transaction represents a single unit of work. It makes the performance fast because database is hit at the time of commit. The ACID properties describe the transaction management well. ACID stands for atomicity, means either all successful or none. Consistency ensures bringing the database from one consistent state to another consistent state.
So Maya, the pronunciation of this is consistent, not consistent. Okay.
Consistent.
Yeah. How will you pronounce this?
Components.
Correct. So here it's not all, it's components. Yeah, there's some
Okay.
weird pronunciation rules. Go on.
Isolation ensures that transaction is isolated from other transaction. Durability means once a transaction has been committed, it will remain so even in the event of errors, power loss, etc.
Okay, so transaction management, you talk about transaction management. Single unit of work makes the performance fast because database is hit at the time of commit. Uh, there are certain properties which describe this transaction management, which are atomicity, which means either all successful or none. Consistency, bringing the database from one consistent state to another. Isolation ensures the transaction is isolated from another. Durability means one transaction has been committed. and it will remain so even in the event of errors, powers, or loss. So once it's committed, then there'll be no change, even if there's power loss. Once it's committed, basically, it's commitment like it's been saved. Connection interface provides methods to manage transactions. Set auto commit. Uh, it is true by default means each transaction is committed by default. Commit commits the transaction. Rollback cancels the transaction. Sometimes when you're dealing with the database, we are running different commands. We may tend to do mistakes, and if we have committed a transaction, we kind of saved it, we can always roll back the database. So it'll go back to the previous state before we ran that particular command. That's when the rollback is used. So all of this I have done in like real world client projects, I think a few years ago. So that's why I remember these things. Okay, go on.
Save point in JDBC. The process of rollback is a saver at times, but it's not very efficient when a transaction containing a large number of queries to roll back.
It's definitely a savior because when you're dealing with clients database, sometimes we tend to do mistakes and write incorrect commands. So rollback was like really helpful. We could just roll back and go back to the previous commit.
The save point is one option that sets a save point, that is, a checkpoint in the transaction and ensures that rollback to only match the marked checkpoint and not of the complete transaction.
Right.
The connection interface in the current transaction offers two methods to set save point. The set save point and set save point string name method returns the save point object and creates unnamed save point and given name save point respectively.
Okay. Something was wrong somewhere. I read what was incorrect. Okay, here it is. Okay, just three more slide left. Okay, this is the question from the assignment.
Batch processing. Instead of executing a single query, we can execute a batch of queries. It makes the performance fast. It is because when one sends multiple statements of SQL at once to the database, the communication overhead is reduced significantly, as one is not communicating with the database frequently, which in turn results to fast performance.
Yeah, communication overhead means communication cost.
The java.sql.statement and java.sql.prepared statement interfaces provide methods for batch processing.
So these are the methods: add batch, method for callable statement, prepared statement. Statement is used to single statements to a batch. Execute batch is to, I think, execute all those queries grouped together. Statement method returns an integer. Each of these elements array represent the update count for the respective update statements. Then you have database metadata.support batch updates, which throws exception. If target database facilitates the batch update processing, then the method returns true. Clear batch method removes all the statements that one has added using add batch method. So Maya, have you had a chance to star all the topics which are there in the question paper?
Yes, I did. I think I
Okay.
did all of them from the
Uh,
question
are there
paper.
any are there any topic which are not there in the presentation slide?
There was one thing, let
Okay,
me check, I don't remember.
we will come back to that. Let's just finish these
Okay.
two slides and then we'll discuss that. Okay, go on.
Rosette interface. An interface of Rosette is the Java Bean component because it has properties and Java Bean notification mechanism. It is the wrapper of result set. A JDBC Rosette facilitates a mechanism to keep the data in tabular form. It happens to make the data more flexible as well as easier as compared to a result set. The connection between the data source and the Rosette object is maintained throughout its life cycle. The Rosette supports development models that are component-based, such as Java Beans, with the standard set of properties and the mechanism of event notification.
Okay, so JDBC Rosette provide a new factory create JDBC Rosette. I'm probably assuming that result set is of course used to get the result, and this is also used to get the result, but probably in a different shape. This gets the data in different shape, and this might get a data in different shape. So setting the URL, setting the username, password, setting the command, and then executing. Okay.
Java Data Objects (JDO) is a specification which enables storage and retrieval of persistent data of Java objects. The complex applications require these persistent data or the information to be available beyond the life cycle of the program for various purposes. JDBC API and JDO API allow us to access data through the Java application. In JDBC, the relational database is used as a data source, but JDO uses any data source, maybe a relational database, object-oriented database, or even flat files. JDBC mostly uses structured query language, while JDO uses Java code for the purpose.
Thanks. Happy Independence Day. Finally completed it. Not that we remember a lot. Of course, we have to do a lot of revision, but at least we
Yeah,
completed. So let's just quickly open the. Can you send me the link of the question paper
yeah.
on the chat? You can send it on the. Okay, I think you only have one option in the chat. Right? Okay.
So the Java paper is actually last.
I know. I know. Does that mean we'll have some gap in between to study Java?
There is 1 week gap between
1 week gap?
database, yeah, database and data structures and algorithms.
1 week gap. Wow.
DBMS is on 27th August and DSA is on 2nd September and Java is on 3rd.
So Java is on third. Okay. So 29th is one of the subjects, right? Let's see the calendar.
27th.
So there's one subject on 29th also, isn't it? No, no, no.
No,
So there's one on 27th, then second, and then third, correct?
yeah.
So from 27, we'll have 28, 29, 20, 30, 31, 1, 2. So kind of 5 days for both those subjects. So object-oriented programming Java. Okay. Data structures and algorithm. So looks like we'll have some time. I'll probably focus on the data structure and all algorithm because I've not studied it at all. Uh,
Mhm.
okay. Have you shared the link?
Yeah, it was just
Okay.
a small thing. The question is explain why
Asking something
main
else?
method in Java is always static.
Okay.
So that's not there on this slide. There's a description of main method, but it
Do you
doesn't
have the
explain
answer?
why it's static.
Do you have the answer for that?
No.
Can you search online?
Yeah.
We'll add that to the sheet. Google, sorry, onto our. We'll add that to a slide. What is OOP? Yes. Create an object. Explain them. Yes. Explain super keyword. Yes. We've done that. Write a job and demonstrate how a thread is created. I think we have that. I wish we had an index which takes us to that slide. Do we have that anything in that Google slide? Such option? This thread.
I sent a link.
Okay. One second. Thread creation by extending thread class. Threading. Okay, okay. So question is program to demonstrate how threads are created. Also set the priority of the created thread to 8. How will we set the priority? I think we haven't done that, have we?
There was a list of methods. I remember seeing set priority somewhere.
Set priority of created thread to 8. But this is going to create like 8 threads. It's not going to create the priority. So I leave it to you to add that information. Okay, can you
Okay.
make a note of it to add that to the Google slide? Slide number is 114, just to make it easier for you when you're doing it.
Okay.
Okay, so I put this question here. Uh, what is exception? Why proper exception handling is necessary in the programming? Is exception number class? Here is exception. Exception is before this, right? Multi-threading, package interface. Yeah, this one exception. Exception is causes. Question is saying why proper exception is necessary in Java programming. So I don't think we have written this, have we? Have we written this? Why proper exception is handling is necessary? I know one thing is that the program will break, but
Uh,
like if we don't handle the exception, then program will not execute, will not go further. It'll break at that point. But if we handle exception, we'll throw that exception and continue processing the rest of the program. That's one. But maybe make a note of it if you can find any other information about this question. Why exception is handling and add that to the slide. Maybe create another slide and add that or something.
okay. That's
Let's do
explained a little bit on this slide itself, right?
Yeah, because it's part of the question paper. So if it comes, then one line may not be sufficient. What I'll do is I'll add a question like this, and then I'll keep this slide empty so you can do it. And I can actually tag you here. Let me see if I can do that. Comment. So my right answer for this. Yeah, I've assigned this to you, so then you'll be able to directly go to the slide and do this. Okay.
Okay.
Write a program to demonstrate the use of multiple catch clauses in exception handling. Let's see. I don't think we are doing multiple catch clauses. So you probably have to add that. See if you can use the same example but kind of modify it and to have multiple catch clauses.
Okay.
And then we'll just learn that only. We won't do the other one. We'll just do that. Write a program. Hey, this also got deleted. What? Okay, moving on. Right, what is file class in Java? List any two methods file class has. Also explain the use of these methods. Let's see, where is the file class? Do we have that?
Yes.
File
You can
class.
search for it.
Can I? How do I search it?
Control F. You can search for file class.
Yeah, yeah, right. What we're going to do is we're going to do the double star, which will tell us that this is actually part of the exam question. Double star for exam questions. So, what is the file class? So, that defines that, I think. Yeah. It has several methods, such as creating new directories and list any two methods of file. Also, explain the use of these methods. So, I think on the very next slide, we have methods, and we can just do two methods. List two file class methods. So from this whole list, we'll go for the most simple one, and we'll probably, um, yeah, maybe add it here in the comment. So then every time we don't have to remember what we selected. 12. I'm assigning this to you also. List two file class methods and explain. Just copy paste the easy ones. Sure. Assigned. Next, what is polymorphism? What are different types of polymorphism? Explain how polymorphism helps in code reuse in Java with the help of a program. So they need program also. Okay. I have to search. So double star because it's an exam question. Polymorphism types. So advantages helps in code reuse. They want a program. There is this one program. We can show overloading, right? Yeah, you can do this. Full star. Okay. Types of polymorphism is important. And then, my God, so many questions. Write a Java program which takes three numbers as input and displays the largest among this. Do we have this? I don't think we have.
No.
Have to add that. Let's do it here. Uh, we'll move the slide somewhere else later on, but just leaving the slide. Maybe you can paste the screenshot of that particular, like solve it, or if you have it online, which is solved, go for the easiest one, like the shortest program. Sometimes the program's like really, really long. We don't want that. We want the simplest option. So
Okay.
look for a program which is the easiest one. If you want to write it on your own, that's also fine. And then you can paste that here. 'Cause, I was thinking at least they'll ask us for one program.
A lot of the questions are asking for examples also, example
Exactly.
programs.
At least now we know how to write Java, classes. So you write a class, the name of the class, curly braces. It has to have a main. So public void, public static, I think, yeah, public static main, and in the round brackets you have a string with square brackets. So I think we kind of know, and you have to instantiate that class, so new, whatever that class name is. We have looked at programs so many times that I think we remember it. Why main method in Java is always static? So this will be static. Okay, static. Okay, here is use of static method in interface. Any other place? There'll be so many static. Ah, this is the one I think. So just next to this, we'll do another one. See, they'll ask questions like this from the textbook. They'll go to the textbook and they'll find some weird thing like this and they'll ask. So let's just try to think for a while why this could be. So a static method has a static keyword. If a method has been declared static, that means you don't require to instantiate the class to access that method. The method will be available automatically. You can access it automatically. Maybe that could be the reason that you don't have to instantiate the class to run that method, and that's why the main function automatically gets called as an entry point. So
Yeah.
just check whatever the actual reason is and then put it here. I'll assign it to you.
There is no object of the class available at the time of starting Java runtime.
You found the
Because
answer?
of that, yeah, we have to define the main method as static.
Yeah, good. I think I'll remember it, but just put it for the sake.
Yeah.
If you found it, you can put it now also. Slide number is 37. If you don't have the link of the slide, I'll share it with you in the private chat. And the next question, differentiate between string and string buffer class. I think we've done that. String buffer and find it. This is important. It's in the assignment as well as in that. That's good. Three star means it's an assignment as well as in the question paper. Let's do that. So, what is package in Java? Explain with the help of example how user-defined packages are created in Java. Package. Yeah, this is the one I think. Uh, so, May I want you to verify if this answer is correct or not.
Which answer?
How a user-defined package is created in Java. So I'll assign it to you. Just if it's correct, then leave it as it is. Just reply on this comment because it's asked in the exam. I want to make sure what we have here is correct.
Okay.
Check if this answer is correct. What is JDBC? Explain the use of driver manager class in the context of JDBC. Okay.
That is the
Yeah, I know. Just marking it. Come on, where are you? I just saw it. Yeah. What is JDBC? Okay. Then explain use of driver manager class in the context of JDBC. Driver manager class. Used to create a connection in the database, right? Yeah. What is multi-threading? Explain Java thread model with the help of a diagram. Diagram. Do we have diagram? Threading.
I think we have.
So question is what is multi-threading? Okay. So this is triple important question. Oops. Because it's asked in the assignment also and question paper also. So what's asking next question is explain Java thread model with the help of a diagram. So where is diagram? I don't think we have diagram. We don't. So maybe you can add a diagram. Hmm. I
Yeah,
would
there
have to
might be one
add.
in the book.
So I'll add another sheet here. You have to explain also thread model probably. I don't know if I have added thread model or not. Not sure. So again, I'm assigning this to you. Please add a diagram and information about Java thread model. Sometimes we know the answer, but we don't know what the question.
Yeah.
What is an abstract class? Explain advantages of the abstract class with the help of a program. हर जगह example ये पूछते हैं. Everywhere they
Mm-hmm.
want an example, whether it makes sense or not. Where is abstract class now?
There was an example here of an abstract class, I think.
Pretty sure there is. Features of Java. Why? What happened to the class? We did not do any classes. Where the classes go? Why it's not searching? What is the abstract class? Abstraction is there. Abstraction. Yeah, this is the one. Explain advantages of the abstract class with the help of program. I'm gonna add that here. There's no advantages, are there? I don't think we have put advantages here. Yeah, we haven't. Probably it's to do with the abstraction. But anyways, it's better to just write it since it's there in the question paper. Advantages. Program is already there, and you can just write the advantages. Please write advantages. There is a slide before this for abstraction. If some of the if you use the content there, abstraction advantage. Classes. Okay, assigned. Explain. Okay, we're almost done, and then we'll call it a day. Explain the use of following classes in Java program with the help of an example. I wish I could kill them for writing this example. हर चीज पे एग्जाम्पल चाहिए. 3 घंटा खत्म हो जाएगा एग्जाम्पल डालते डालते. ये ट्रेडिशनल है. मुझे लगता है कहीं कहीं वो भूल जाते हैं और कॉपी पे विद द हेल्प ऑफ ये ऐसा क्वेश्चन कॉपी करते हैं विद द हेल्प ऑफ एग्जाम्पल छोड़ के बाकी रिप्लेस कर देते हैं.
We
डेट
have
एंड लिस्ट.
example of date, but list we don't have.
हर जगह एग्जाम्पल चाहिए इनको. ओके, डेट एंड टाइम. या use of date class. Okay, for list we don't have. Where is list? Why is not able to search list? Where is it list? Can you see where the list is? Oh, list interface. It's asking for list class, right?
Yes, there's no list class.
So I'm leaving it here for you to check if there's a list class. Then add that information there. Uh, use of list class with the example. Giving it here. Please check if list class exists. Write the information with example. JDBC batch processing. 10 नंबर क्वेश्चन है बाप रे. Like how many pages you have to write for 10 marks question? Do you know?
I don't know. I write around 2 pages.
Yeah. Okay, this is batch processing. It's important. Explain with the help of. अरे यार इनको प्रोग्राम भी चाहिए. Explain. Signing this to you also because we don't have a program.
Okay. I'll add it in when I'm studying that section.
That's fine. Batch processing is done. Program is done. Java FX. Explain the features of Java FX. Is that your cat?
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah, this is a we have exact one here. I think Java FX is an important topic. I think do you think this much is enough for 10 marks? We have anyway studied so much
No,
about
I
FX.
think it should be a little longer.
We probably can talk about stage, scene. There's so much to talk about. We have learned. I think we can
Yeah.
shove all of that there. Okay, so I think we are done with the entire paper. I don't know how much of this will come in the examination because Based on the last experience, I don't even know what they're gonna give. But I know for
Yeah.
sure that a lot of questions will be from the textbook and assignments.
Yeah.
So let's hope. I think we have covered most of it here, so we should be able to score well. Fine. Let's catch up tomorrow. At Let's catch up at 5 tomorrow. Okay, and we'll just do 1 hour, 5 to 6.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll do your session on the following day, which is Wednesday.
What were we going to do?
Remember, you're going to do the paper question
SQL?
this month, SQL. Yeah,
Okay.
we can easily score 8 marks. I have already written a lot of stuff in the slide. You may want to take a look at it, like data control, not data control language, but um, data manipulation language. So it has got lots of examples. There's a good link there for learning different methods. And I think there's some online tools also which you can use to run and practice. So where is it? The heck is it? Yeah, here it is. See, alter, drop, select. Lot of example with select here. Insert into, update, delete. Yeah, so you can do that. There are some a lot of examples in the textbook also about data manipulation language. So the whole chapter of the SQL, I think is important. Maybe take some time to go through it, but prioritize this solving these guys.
Okay.
Okay, thanks then. Bye bye.
Bye.